Hi, we're going to get started. Welcome. My name is Maria Basaki. I'm the City of Brantford's Director of Communications, Community Engagement, and Customer Service. Welcome to this public meeting about public consultation. I want to introduce a few members of the Public Consultation Task Force before we get started. We have the Chair of the Task Force, Councillor Dan McCreary is here. And we have another councillor on the task force, Councillor Mandy Samwell. And we have one of the citizen committee members, Sam Koliakovo. Thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you for everybody that is here in person and those that have joined us online. We know there's a lot of different ways you can spend your time, especially on a Saturday afternoon. So we certainly do appreciate you being here. So I'm going to do a quick presentation about public consultation and some of the opportunities that already exist. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about ways in which we communicate these opportunities to the public. And then we're going to open up a discussion about what you'd like to see us improve, because there's always room for improvement, and maybe getting some ideas from those participating today on ways in which we can increase the opportunities and increase the awareness of the opportunities. Yes. Yes, the meeting's being recorded. It's running live on YouTube now, and it will live there for those who weren't able to join us today but want to hear today's discussion. So, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the Public Engagement Consultation Task Force and what their mandate is and what the objectives of this engagement campaign are. We want to talk about how decision-making will be influenced by the voices of the community that we're honored to serve. We're going to talk a little bit about ways in which you can get involved in this campaign, as well as others that the city provides opportunities on a regular basis. And then, like I said, we wanted to open up a discussion about preferred engagement methods, and then finally close on ways to stay involved. So the Public Consultation Task Force was struck by council last year with a mandate to enhance and empower citizens' input into the decision-making process. While the city has a very established protocol for the way in which we engage, there is engagement that needs to be done specifically by some departments across the organization where we have a duty to consult, an obligation to consult. We do all of that. It's a pretty turnkey process. Then there are initiatives and projects where we have a little bit more discretion on how we engage and when we engage. And so those are the ones that we want to work on improving, and making sure that people are aware the opportunities exist, and making sure that people feel that their voices matter, and that their input will be meaningful in a way that will inform council's decisions. So we do have an engagement platform. You're probably already aware of it. It's called Let's Talk Brantford. It's a digital platform. It has a number of different tools, and we customize the tools that we offer for each campaign based on the subject matter for each campaign. So that's something that will continue. But one of the things we're exploring through this engagement campaign is in-person opportunities, and if that's something that people want to see more of going forward. Another objective is to make sure that we are engaging underrepresented groups. We feel like we do a pretty good job with older members of our community. 55 plus tend to be the ones in our city that provide us with the most input and seem to have the most discretionary time to attend meetings like this or to complete city surveys. So we want to reach some of the other groups, like the busy parents and some youth between the ages of 18 and 24. Those are groups that we feel are underrepresented. So like I said, we want to increase community input on city decisions. We want to promote inclusivity in decision making. one of the things that we're very, very cognizant of is that the demographics of our community are changing. The city is growing exponentially, and we need to make sure that all groups feel included in the decision-making process. So this campaign is an engagement campaign about how people want to be engaged. So it sounds kind of funny, but it's really important for us to make sure that, like I said, we are providing the opportunities that will get the most reach and will get the most level of participation with residents. So your voice really does matter. I know that there are times when people feel like they've gone to the trouble to provide input on a survey and the council decision may not go the way that they expected. And that happens. We do live in a democracy, and the community does vote in elected officials to be their representative and to be their voice on council. And there are times when a specific item or issue affects a particular neighborhood, and the neighborhood will weigh in a way that is maybe overwhelmingly a view. And then the city as a whole may weigh in a different view. And so it's really a very challenging job for council to have to balance the views of those who will be most impacted by a particular project or issue or initiative with the interests of the city as a whole. So that's always the challenge for any elected official. But we want to reiterate that anybody that provides input, it is read, it is put into a record, it is analyzed, and it is provided to council as well as to staff to inform future recommendations and to inform whatever decisions that council is making that relate back to why we have engaged. The city has something called a community involvement framework. It is a guide for staff on how to engage on different subjects. And we're using this opportunity to update that framework because it is quite dated. It's over 10 years old, and it does not really account for all of the technological and digital ways in which people expect to be able to engage. So this is an opportunity to update that document. So there are a number of ways in which the city communicates with residents, and there are a number of ways that we offer engagement opportunities. So like I mentioned, we do have a platform called Let's Talk Brantford, where we have online surveys. Another tool on there is called Ideas, where we ask people to just be creative and tell us what your ideas are. For example, if we're doing a design for a new park, we want to hear from people about what amenities they feel should be there. Another tool on there is a mapping tool. Again, if we were doing a large-scale campaign about where in the city are we deficient in parks, where should they be, you can use the mapping tool, drop in a pin and tell us exactly where you think that a park should be. So there are a number of digital tools that are available on Let's Talk Brantford. We also have a number of social media platforms. The city is on Facebook, on X, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Instagram. And based on our followings, the preferred method of commenting to the city is Facebook. It's overwhelmingly Facebook. That is not the situation in every single community, but in Brantford, it is. We have over 30,000 people that follow the city on our Facebook page, and that is where the highest level of engagement currently takes place in terms of social media. We offer in-person town halls, especially if it is an issue that will impact a number of people in the community. That again, we're exploring whether or not we need to provide more of those if there is an interest and a demand from residents to have us do that more often. We also do something called public information centers. Those are usually run by subject expert staff. For example, if our public works department needed to undertake an environmental assessment of a particular area for a project, they would do something called a public information center where they would have boards up on easels to try to explain all the technical features of the study that they're about to implement and what the outcomes could potentially be for that particular neighborhood. So those are done on a very regular basis. We also, as a city that invests substantially in recreation, we have a number of city-hosted events that we run. We have programming throughout the year at Harmony Square. We do a number of 55+ programming across our community centers. We do a big Canada Day event. So we're looking at those events as additional opportunities to engage people where they're at. And this campaign actually includes a number of those events where the comms team is set up to engage with people at events that they're already at. So they don't have to go to the trouble of coming to a meeting like this. They can talk to us at something they've already planned to be at. If something really major is happening and we want to make sure that every household in the city is aware of it, we often use our utility bills as a way to send out information. We do quite a bit of online advertising with our local media outlets, as well as Google ad placement. We do print advertising in the local paper, The Expositor. We do outdoor advertising and radio as well. We don't always use every medium. It really depends on the budget and the particular subject that we're communicating about or engaging about. But we do try to use as many platforms as possible to extend our reach. So ways to get involved in this particular campaign, if you haven't already, strongly urge you to complete the survey on Let's Talk Brantford that goes into more detail about what I've talked about today and also provides a lot of opportunities for open-ended input. And if you don't already, please follow us on all of our platforms at City of Brantford. And I can't stress enough how important it is for city staff and for members of council to hear from residents. Residents are the ones that will be impacted the most by the decisions that are made. So we absolutely recognize the value of your meaningful input. And so with that, I did want to just begin a discussion. I know we have some people that have joined us virtually online. So if you want to make a comment or ask a question, I'm going to ask you to use the raise hand icon, and we'll just answer questions and respond to comments in order in the queue. But I'll start with anybody here in City Hall. If you don't mind, just so people at home can hear you, do you mind coming up to one of the microphones here? Yeah. So then, because if you ask your question from there, people online won't be able to hear you. Sure. Yep. Yep. We're going to start here and then we're going to go online and go back and forth. Yep. So you can have a seat.
Yeah. Just want to ask if you have a newsletter of any sort that goes out to email addresses.
Excellent question. Yes. Well, we have a number of newsletters, e-newsletters. We have one for tourism. We have newsletters that go out about a specific project. For example, the Greenwich Mohawk remediation project. We had a newsletter that would go out about that on a regular basis. We have a Let's Talk Brantford e-newsletter that we send out on a monthly basis that lists all the different opportunities to engage. We also have a hard copy newsletter that we do on a quarterly basis. It's just basically, news of the quarter from the city. Those don't go to every single household. That would be expensive for us to produce and send to every household. But we do offer that on the city's website. And we do promote that on our social media.
Let me add this.
Yeah.
To my constituents, those who've signed up get a newsletter every month, on the first of the month. So if you're a third ward resident, you don't get it, you can just let me know and we'll add you on. Or if you live anywhere in town, because a lot of it's generic to the municipality. So if you want to email me, I can add you to the list and you'll get something in the way of information. There may be other counselors that do the same thing. I'm not privy to it. I think another counselor may do something like that on Facebook. But if your counselor doesn't, maybe email them and get it started. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would recommend that if you want to be on all of the city's e-newsletter email lists, we will definitely get your information today, but anybody listening at home could just email us at communications@brantford.ca and we'll add you to all of the databases.
Next.
Okay, so we're going to go online just to take turns and then we'll have you come up. Lucy, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to add to the newsletters. For those 55 plus, the Grand River Council on Aging publishes a newsletter every other Friday. Every city request for Let's Talk Brantford is covered. It's always in there. And for those that have family members that do not use technology, it's meant that the family members would be able to get it and go to the Let's Talk Brantford process. As well, that newsletter is also published and printed and is in retirement homes, churches, and across the community. So that if people don't get the newsletter and want to get the newsletter, go on to the Grand River Council on Aging website, and on the first page, there's a place to put an email address. You'll immediately get an email back saying, do you really want to get this? And if you say yes, then you're going to get it and you'll have an opportunity to use your voice in many ways to assist the city. That's it. I just wanted to compliment the newsletter thing.
Lucy, do you mind sharing the address for the
Oh,
website?
yes. www.grcoa.ca. I'll repeat that. www.grcoa.ca. And if they don't get it that way, just Google Grand River Council on Aging and you'll have it.
All right.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Lucy.
Please come back up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sure. I'll just ask you to turn on the mic.
That's fine.
Okay, there you go.
What kind of engagement do you get with Let's Talk Brantford? For example, like how many people are registered for it? How many responses do you tend to get on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We have thousands of people that have registered. I think it's around 5,000. 5,000, that's the e-newsletter list that goes to everybody that is registered. And in terms of responses, it really does depend on the subject matter. So it varies. If it is a subject that is something wide-ranging, say about traffic across the city, we would normally get between 1,000 and 1,500 people who engage. If it's something that is specific to a neighborhood specific, probably a couple of hundred. This campaign so far, we have about 400 responses. So it really does depend on the campaign and the level of interest from the community.
So it's a fairly low.
In terms of,
response.
our population, it doesn't seem like a high number. But, you know, a few years ago, we did a communication strategy and we engaged people with an online survey and we had about 1,500 responses. And I remember the consultant telling us that that was an overwhelming level of participation for that subject because they worked for larger communities where they would think that 500 was successful. So do we want thousands and thousands? Because we do have 40,000 households in our community, absolutely. But those rates are consistent with what other cities get as well.
And then the other question I had, because of course, if you want to do a delegation or something, you can only speak to something that's on the agenda.
Right.
So, you know, another option is to reach out to counselors. What obligations do counselors have in terms of responding to and engaging with their constituents?
Well, counselors are bound by a code of conduct,
Mhm.
which specifies that you treat people with dignity and respect and so on, right? And I think probably the very vast majority of counselors do respond in a timely fashion. Some may respond only if a question is asked or if a response is asked for. So if you're engaging a counselor, you do want to make sure that if you're asking a question or stating opinion, that you ask for a response.
The reason I ask, I have been trying to engage with my counselors since, actually, I can tell you the date because it was my birthday,
Oh.
May 15th of last year. And I still have the email saved, and I'm not going to name names or
Okay,
anything.
yeah.
We were trying to arrange for the two counselors to be together. I have not had a response after that engagement, and I kept that email for reference. So that's really, really discouraging. You know, I have come into City Hall, I've met with you know, people from the engineering department, people from the planning department, people, you know, because I'll be honest, I have serious concerns about a lot of things that are happening in this community. So, and I am very much for more in-person engagement. I'm actually withdrawing a little bit from technology. I'm going back to receiving paper bills on things. I'm much preferring the old school because, you know, as you know, people can attack online, right?
Mm.
And it's a very different dynamic when you are face to face with somebody.
Absolutely.
And to be able to read their expressions and their body language is critical.
Once we conclude today, perhaps we can chat.
That
Okay.
would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank
We don't
you.
want to talk about your personal things online because it stays there forever. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
What should we be
that's-
doing better?
Well, engagement is, you know, is critical. I think, you know, a lot of us, especially in the last little while, have spent quite a bit of time doing some research on things that are happening, not only in this municipality, but in numerous other municipalities, quite frankly, right across the country. And I have spoken to that effect at a delegation here. And, you know, I mean, there was no response, and I know my time was like right to the last second, so there was no time for questions. But, you know, I could certainly, you know, people could reach out afterwards with any questions, you know, where are you getting your information? Because unfortunately, in some municipalities, not this one, when people are presenting this information, they're being addressed with quite disparaging attitudes and responses, and you know,
We try to be kind.
and that's absolutely how it should be.
Yeah.
You treat others the way you want to be treated. You know, we have all had our moments, I think, where we've lashed out and done things that were said things that were very inappropriate. However, you know, we're all human. We can learn from our mistakes. But, you know, to find out, to take the time, where is your information coming from? You know, why do you have these concerns? You know, and, you know, certain things, especially with regard, like, I'll be totally honest. I'm having a bit of a back and forth with the city on the new smart water meter program. Now this was the only thing I knew about that. I got a notice from KTI in my mailbox saying you have to do this or your water's going to be shut off. First of all, that's red flag right there to me, just to go right on the offensive and pose threats like that. Especially, like, I don't remember hearing any discussion about should we, shouldn't we, what are the pros and cons, everything else. And so I went to the meetings. I sent, you know, basically a conditional acceptance, but I had questions. And when the responses came back, I mean, the gal from the water department has been lovely. And I stated that, you know, I prefaced my email with that. However, in the response, the only thing that they cited was the manufacturer. And when you ask for independent peer reviewed research, getting information from the organization that stands to profit immensely, it's not exactly the best.
We can take that issue up later on.
That
Yeah,
would be, that would
okay.
be wonderful.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, like
yeah.
I didn't even know anything about that. And I mean, that affects us, and I have serious health concerns with respect to those meters. And they're legitimate. And you know, so, and again,
Okay.
the way that that was done by making threats, totally, I'm sorry, inappropriate
Okay,
and uncalled for.
thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to go to somebody that's
Yeah,
online
there's
now?
Somebody online?
Okay.
No? Okay, they're just listening. Anybody else? Okay, that's fine. Yeah, of course.
You don't have to be shy.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. If you have a question, by all means.
Yeah. Or you
Okay.
could ask Mandy if she would ask the question for you if you don't want to get up. Yeah. So- Yes. Oh, that's good. That's very good. So let me just say, we touched a little bit about on council process, and I believe you mentioned something as well. So years ago, we had a process where we played around with folks being able to come in here and talk to members of council about whatever the heck they wanted. And that went away pretty quickly because it became somewhat cumbersome, and quite often we'd get somebody that came in here that was maybe I'm searching for the polite way to say a bit
Long-winded?
there, that's the word, yeah. So now what we have is you may come to speak to anything that's on our agenda. So we publish our agenda Thursday,
Friday mornings.
Friday mornings for our Tuesday night meeting. So folks who are quite interested can watch that. And if there's something of interest, you can register by 9 a.m. on the Tuesday, I guess, or talk one of us into moving a resolution to let you on as a late submitter. And then you've got, as you know, you've got your 5 minutes or whatever the hour is divided up into by the number of folks to speak to it. And we do it sort of in the way of a hearing. So you can ask questions and make comments. We don't answer them necessarily, but a member of council will usually answer during their later speaking opportunities. Okay. And planning meetings are the same. We actually have a statutory meeting. So if there's something going on in your neighborhood, you can come and tell us you like it, you don't like it, you're mad as the dickens, whatever you want to say to us. And you have, again, a limited time to do that in, and we deal with it the same way. You make your point, you ask your questions, say your piece, and then maybe a member of council will try and get those answers for you during the process here. So one of the things that's come up is that we do have communication issues with respect to the little things and the big things, right? So I was mentioning to Mr. Bond that we had in my ward, we had an issue with parking on one of my streets. And the way we resolve that is we put an envelope in everybody's mailbox and tell them what we're planning, right? And then we ask for a response. And, if we get half the people in favor or out of half the people that respond, we'll go ahead. But the thing is that most people, unless it looks like a check or a letter or something of value to them, it goes right into the blue box. And a lot of our stuff goes right into the blue box. And I must say, I've probably been guilty of that myself at home. So, we've got that kind of small issue where we can't effectively communicate to people individually about parking. And then I hate to really go right to the jugular with respect to the Airedale issue that we had. Here you've got an issue where we were selling a community asset to help fund something that we felt was important, that being affordable housing. So that was done as a resolution. So if you'll recall what I said about resolutions, it's only so many days notice. You get a notice of motion on a resolution, and then you get it come in a later cycle, which allows a little more latitude. But at the time, I don't know that we had that in place. So folks were quite surprised. There was a limited amount of time to discuss that. And the outcome of that lack of discussion has been a sort of a very uncomfortable streak of anger that's run through this community the last few years, which regrettably we could have avoided had we had this discussion and this process in advance of that. So we also have to learn something from the community about how they want to be consulted on the big things too, right? Not just the little things, but the big things. Mandy, do you have something that you wanted to ask? Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're all welcome to come on up here and talk if you want. I know it's online, but. Or you could send me an email or send Maria an email with your thoughts too. That's okay. I don't want to, yes?
Yeah,
Sure.
great. Okay, we got an online.
Okay.
My question is, when an issue is brought up with any counselor, do the counselors consult each other about that issue? Let's say I'm in Ward 4 and I go and speak about something that affects the whole city potentially. It's something that I may not have all the information about, but are the counselors having conversations regarding that particular issue, and how does that then go back to the community, not just the person who asked the question?
Yeah, that's a very good one. I know in my ward, Greg and I, we usually consult with the folks in here if it's something that extends beyond our boundaries. And we usually try to make sure that we have enough votes to get the things done in our ward. So we're quite, interactive. I don't know if all councillors do that. I think Mandy's probably going to want to jump in on this one as well. So I don't know about your councillors, but I know that that's pretty common here. Okay.
Thank you. I guess it depends on what the topic is, and like if you're saying that it is affecting the broader community, then yeah, generally we would speak with each other and see if we're hearing a lot of the same things. Are people hearing a lot of the same concerns, and kind of just to get a sense of what the broader community is thinking about the issue. Thank you. Yeah, we try very hard to have good communication amongst ourselves as well as with the community.
For the most part.
Or at least I know I do.
Derek, did you want to jump in?
We have somebody
No?
online.
Oh, we have somebody online? Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Ash.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have a question which relates to delegations, deputations, whatever you call them in Brantford. Is it permissible for someone who does not reside in Brantford to delegate or make a deputation on behalf of someone in the city?
Absolutely. There's no residency requirement to speak to us. We usually ask people for their addresses, but it's not mandatory, and it really doesn't matter to us. And a lot of people, I think, when they're out of town, they tell us that up front.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
well, that's cool.
Oh.
Come on back.
For sure. You can do it.
The one on the.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I recall, I can't remember what the specific topic was, but Let's Talk Brantford, and there was, it may have actually been an email. I can't recall. But it was regarding an issue, and there were meeting times, but they were all like 4 o'clock-ish, which, to offer that opportunity is great for those people who can attend during those timeframes. There's a lot of people that cannot. So to make sure that you're covering sort of all hours, so to speak, to give an opportunity during the day and an opportunity in the evening or weekend where, somebody does not have the option to attend during the day. Because it would have been something I would have attended and I couldn't.
Sure. Yeah. So for our council meetings, they're always 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Public ones. Planning meetings, 9:30 a.m. Thursdays. And most of us that are doing ward meetings are trying to do it after hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like, many people couldn't attend a planning meeting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's at 9:30.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely something to at least give the option. Yeah, this was more of an information session,
Okay.
I believe.
Mm.
Very similar to like the zoning one, I
Yeah, yeah.
expect that you have,
Yeah.
but the water ones that you
Yeah.
have. It was that type of scenario.
Yeah.
But it was not an
Yeah.
option.
The ones that Greg and I do, we usually start after 5. And
Right.
so those are like public information sessions where you'll have a presentation like what Maria
Mhm.
gave, and then an opportunity for questions, but there's also sort of a mingle
Mhm.
where you got all the staff that actually know what things are about, not counselors, of course, because we're generalists. So you've got experts there to deal one-on-one with people, and people that come to those really seem to like it.
And I mean, that's something else as well. Like, I mean, there's no way that the counselors have been able to sit and read the municipal act. All of the, like, I mean, it's, what is it? The printed version, I mean, it's English and French is what, 800 and some odd pages, right? Like it's, so there's no way you can know everything, but I know even from the zoning meeting, it was just very much there were sort of stations around, there was no presentation of any kind, and it was just, fortunately I had done a fair bit of research, like I've actually been reading the transportation master plan and the official plan and all of these, and that, like, you should see the stack of documents that I have, because, I'm finally realizing that, our complacency, and sadly, it's witnessed here with the lack of attendance that, we have an issue, and, things are being done that a lot of us don't necessarily agree with.
Or know about.
Or know about.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Well, folks, last call. Yes, ma'am, come on back up. Mr. Harding, were you thinking of making a comment today too? You didn't think I wasn't going to center you out, did you?
You
Okay,
have to come to the mic, sir.
we always try to ask first-time speakers to come up before second-time speakers. Thanks for coming today, everybody, by the way.
Yeah, Bill Harding, Brantford Sports Council, Community Sports Council, Ontario. I know I've been to a number of these meetings as well, and a couple of things come up in that, in terms of some major changes in the way city now approaches the budgets, midterm, immediate, short term, from what they used to do, which I think is advantageous to long-term development and strategic planning longer term. Can you just explain what that process was and then what it is now?
We used to, during my first 20 years, my first few years, we would get a binder of information. Greg and I weighed it one year. I think it was 7 pounds of paper. And counselors were expected to wade through that and make suggestions about reductions and increases and ask intelligent questions. And it was rather a dog's breakfast. And sometimes the budget would take a month to get through because it was ponderous. And our CAO of the day, John Brown, introduced a process that would eliminate some of the time investment by creating a roadmap to get through the process, and also a process where counselors could pick and choose from things submitted by staff with respect to making strategic investments, as they're called now. We used to call them unmet needs, as well as reductions in some of the planned work. And that, Bill, that took a lot of weight off council, took a lot of weight off staff. It was somewhat effective. And then our prior CAO, Mr. Hutchings, introduced something that we'd been talking about for years, and he finally made that happen, and that's the 4-year budget. Okay, so year one, you produce the budget for 4 years, and subsequent years you tinker with it, for lack of a better word. So you'll adjust based on inflation, you'll adjust based on things that staff think are no longer necessary to do, as well as what we used to call unmet needs. They're now called strategic investments, and that largely includes hiring staff to consider the added workload in a lot of aspects of what we do at City Hall. So this year, year two of the budget, we got through it in a couple of nights, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of
A week
nights
or two,
without
yeah.
a lot of, without a lot of input. Personally, I think we really need to tinker with the process a little bit more, so council has more of an opportunity to introduce things that we think they need, as well as looking at reductions in terms of the work that we do here in the corporation. So that's kind of where we are. And as you know, there once was a time going way, way, way back when estimates committee, council sitting as estimates committee, would receive many, many entreaties from organizations within the city of Brantford asking for money. And it became somewhat onerous, and we eventually decided that that would no longer be possible to come here and ask specifically for funding for a third-party organization. Although that was not adhered to this year because we had a couple of folks that thought that they needed money and we thought they didn't. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. The other part of that is that I know you've developed, because I was reading the I have a copy of the mid-year council priorities project.
Mhm.
And that addresses the city's identified through staff and council, the top 10 priorities for the community.
Yeah.
And as Maria knows, because she lives it every day, the communications can't wait for board meetings sometimes or setting up sessions. They happen quickly with social media and all that now. So the information gets out there quickly. So when that happens, I know there's a top 10 priorities in the community. And I guess a lot of people are saying why are we doing this one and not that one? I think the city can demonstrate from what I've experienced in the last little couple of years, the ability to be able to do more than just one thing. They can tackle them all. And I know that the groups that I deal with, Parks and Rec in particular, they've just gone through their master plan process, and that allows for additional input and user groups and all the things that they're doing amidst all the changes taking place at City Hall and all the changes taking place in what I call our community sports groups and community people that use the sports facilities.
Maria, could you talk a bit about the community foundation? I left that bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Are you done, Bill?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to Councillor McCreary's comments about third parties when they come and ask for funding of council. Council has allotted a fairly significant reserve for third party donations to nonprofit organizations that do really, really important work in our community that a lot of people rely on. That is facilitated by the Brant Community Foundation for the purposes of making sure that the decisions about what organizations get what are done fairly, equitably, totally objectively outside of the political process. So that's why that change was made.
I think that the report that I was looking at also had the opportunity for other things that came up in the community that needed an immediate response because there was time sensitive, or it was say an organization coming here to make a major investment or presentation but needed to get that support, and that allowed for that. Whereas the community foundation has a cycle of planning and processing which may not fit the immediate things that may need to get done, but it focuses on that annual use of the funds that are available.
So for immediate instances, Bill, we have an opportunity to introduce things at council in a short-term turnaround. Okay. Money is another matter.
Money doesn't always.
Money is another matter. Yes.
Well, but I know that you've taken that and incorporated that in to allow that kind of flexibility now, which has been great because I think people can take advantage of that.
And if you've got specific instances that you'd like to talk about when we finish up here, we can take a few minutes to do that.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I just think going the right direction. The city can accommodate a lot of things we're doing. I think the organization is set up to handle, from what I see, the future. And I know Facebook is you mentioned that the largest one. It's not always the best one, but you have to filter that properly, and then everyone gets their chance at saying their opinion, whether you agree or disagree. But I'd just like to see people take it in a positive framework in doing that. And when they do that, you can get your opinion out for sure. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Do we have anybody online? Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
Hi, I was at the meeting this past week at Woodman Drive and stated my concern about such limited public engagement. This really upsets me in that your crew speak for us and do everything for us to make the city better. When you said, Maria, that that Facebook seems to be the method of choice for individuals to make comments, I feel that that's totally counterproductive. Nothing is done with those comments from Facebook. Let's call them what they are, keyboard warriors. Yes, please do state your opinion, but those opinions need to come to you, our council members. I don't know what the answer is. I wonder and I fear that it may be because of the fact that in the past, this was never done. Unapproachable would be a good word, I feel, to describe the manner in which our council has been. So I'm pleased that these meetings are happening. How are we going to get more people involved? I try, we can only try. I think the other part, some of the comments that I made that evening, you've also addressed here tonight or this afternoon. So thank you for that. Whereas I indicated something like, the smaller issues we're pretty well engaged on, meaning what amenities do you want in a park, blah, blah, blah. My big concern is how much there is no acknowledgement or information passed along on the bigger decisions that are about to be made. Not many people attended the December 2023 meeting about the Sports and Entertainment Center. There was a ton of information put out that evening, and I know it was recorded. Could perhaps we get that onto YouTube for all to see, and we can start having an in-depth conversation about something major that's about to happen?
We could, Kim, we could certainly do something in the way of a public information center about what we're planning at the Sports Entertainment Center. If, what we did back then, I think if I recall, there might have been 50 people there. Would that seem about right to you?
I would say so, along with your staff and cameramen and that sort of thing. Yeah, there really wasn't a good number in attendance.
We're thinking that was not recorded.
Yeah, the cameras you saw were media. It wasn't a city recording.
Can
So
you
I
get
think
those?
that's something that we could take up, certainly, is to put together something and have a session like this where we can, lay out what the plans are. We are a few months away from the design phase. I believe we're probably looking for tender for that to hit the street sometime in January, I think. So, it would be an opportune time to update the public on what we're doing and receive comment back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the numbers and the facts need to be presented like they were at that meeting as well, because people need to be informed as to the background.
Well, yeah, and the other aspect of that, Kim, is that there's all sorts of rampant speculation because we really haven't told that story, right?
Right. There's nothing out there. The general public, they can have all kinds of
nothing accurate.
Oh, well, there is some information out there. So there is a dedicated project page on the city's website about this project, and you can get to it by going to brantford.ca/SEC. There's about 25 questions on there that we've tried to answer that have come in from the public during that engagement phase in 2023. And it links to all of the reports that have been presented to council. So there's a lot of information there, for sure.
Maria, are the reports available there?
Yes.
So instead of a nice, easy presentation, you're putting it on the public to go and do their homework.
No, there will be other presentations as well about the initiative. This is just something that if people are interested to learn about the chronology of how we got to where we are now, all of that information does exist online.
So Kim, what we will do is we will have a discussion about a date to provide the sort of public interaction that I think you're speaking about, okay?
Great. Ward meetings, maybe, full public, good presentations, good conversations. I'd love to see that.
I don't think we'll do it at 2:00 in the afternoon at Woodman Community Center, though.
No.
What do you think,
Good
Kim?
plan. No, I wouldn't think that that's a good time.
Okay. Listen, thanks for participating again today.
No, you're welcome.
Okay.
Got another one here. Yeah, come on.
This is fun.
Sure.
One more question. I promise it will be the last one.
No worries.
It came up in the last few questions, and that is the information and how it's being presented. And I think for me as an average person, the amount of information coming at us, and I know it's probably worse for you, but the amount of information that people know is available online,
Mm.
needs to be read through, decisions that are being made, what's going to affect us, what isn't. Is there any way to summarize that information into discrete packages and say, here's the issue, here's how it'll impact you, you know what I mean? Just put it in like a Cliff Notes
Mhm.
format so that it's easily digestible and people can then see whether it's something that they want to invest their time in and address it with their counselor.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion. It actually came up at the last meeting we held. Is there a way that we can communicate the decisions that council are considering and then the decisions that they made in more plain language? That isn't all of the whereases and the therefores and the to whoms, that all that language that exists as part of our procedure. That language needs to be used in council meetings. But it's a very good point, and I do think that we can do a better job of regularly posting something in plain language, saying these are the items that council will be considering, and if you want to engage on these items, here are the opportunities to do that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but you have to brief AI and tell them what exactly what you you want. And sometimes the brief is like, it's so much work, you just gotta do it yourself. So, yeah, but no, it can be an effective tool for some things.
I don't think we have anybody else. We have somebody else. Okay.
Okay, Lucy, second speaking opportunity.
Well, actually, just to highlight from the 55 plus population, not all of them are going to be doing Let's Talk Brantford Online. Not all of them are going to use the website. Not all of them are going to use Facebook. It's just we're in transition in the use of technology and communications. And yet who votes? Who has the wherewithal? They want to know more information. So a suggestion that has come up from the Grand River Council on Aging is that the city that is doing just a wonderful job on doing things, but does not let the public know in different ways in lay terms what they've done. So we have suggested that there be some consideration given to a did you know type of activity, whether it goes in the expositor, whether it could be online and everything, but the did you know should put in lay terms what happened to something. If there was a decision made, what is it? And in lay terms, why is it good? So that's coming as a suggestion for consideration.
Super. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I think maybe we've talked ourselves out. Let me thank everybody for coming today. Next steps, Maria, we're going to be cobbling this together and then coming to committee when, do you think?
Yeah, so the preliminary report going to the task force will be at the end of March. And then another report will go to council the following month in April. And we will definitely communicate all of those milestones and make sure that people who provided input and even those that didn't are aware of what we heard and the changes that we're going to make to make this process better.
And we're doing this again, 13th of January.
February.
February,
Yeah, it's February.
February.
Yeah.
13th of February, Gretzky Center in the tournament room, which is next to the #1 rink, starting at 6 p.m. It will not be broadcast. So folks that want to come that maybe didn't want to appear on camera today could come there and ask their questions then. So thank you all for coming. We are adjourned and we look forward to having this presentation for the public in a few months. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much for coming.